thank you, everybody. Dennis Smeltzer, president of TSANet. Like all of our TSANet webinars, we've got it scheduled for probably longer than we're going to take, so you probably end up with a little bit more time left. We'll go ahead and go into Q&A at the end of it. And I'm going to turn this over to Paul. He's been working with this particular topic for quite some time and very well versed in it, and is going to give you a presentation on it. The case exchange whole concept idea has been something that TSANet members have been talking about for years. And it's now something that we've come up with what we think is a very good solution for our members. Paul's going to walk you through it, so I don't want to steal all of his thunder here, but basically something that can be implemented and put into place in what we think is a pretty short order. So so let me go ahead. Like I said, I've already got this recorded, so if you want to share this, we'll send it out. Stephanie's online with us as well, and she'll get it sent out to everybody that was signed up for the webinar. So Paul, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thanks a lot, Dennis. As Dennis indicated, we'll take you through a few topics here. I want to give you a good overview of Case Exchange, spend a little bit of time on different deployment options, give you a little bit of sense of how it works, or from kind of slide viewpoint, but then we'll go into a demo that hopefully we'll be able to kind of see and practice how it works. And then we'll have some time for Q&A as well towards the end. So it's just a big piece of background here. As Dennis indicated, yes, this is something that TSANet members have been asking for quite some time. It falls under the category of collaboration must be easy, and that's something that each year we strive as TSANet to really improve the ease of collaboration. And it really kind of comes down to the fact that support engineers, they work in their own CRM systems. So as soon as you start to bring processes outside of that CRM system, it does bring some challenges. And really the solution is Case Exchange, and that allows members to collaborate with other members right within your own CRM system, and you'll see how that works in practice. Case Exchange is a member benefit, so it's included in your membership. It's not a separate thing that you need to get, or a certain membership level that you have to be at. It's really, if you're part of the TSANet multi-vendor community, you have access to Case Exchange. As Dennis indicated, it is quick implementation. It literally is about 30 minutes to get this thing installed in a Salesforce sandbox, or if you want to use the web, similar easy for us to get up and going. So it's not the type of thing that takes a lot of effort. And also it's lightweight and flexible. So one of the questions we tend to get, especially when people hear of integration into a CRM system, is, are you going to be sharing my sensitive customer data and things like that? And the answer is no. You define the data that you exchange with other members, and you'll see again in practice how that works. So as far as deployment options, we do have two different options. The first is a CRM connector. And we do support 3 different CRM systems today. These are all SaaS-type solutions, Salesforce, NetSuite, Microsoft Dynamics. But if you're not on one of those, or possibly you're starting to deploy one of those, but you're not quite ready yet, we do have a web interface. So the web interface is really for everyone else. If you're not on the supported platform, or you just want to start with the web first and move to a connector later, the web is a good strategy on that as well. And we have, and I'll talk about this a little bit when we get into the web interface, we do also have options for email integration into your CRM system. I'll talk a little bit about how that works when we talk about the web. We also have a few different deployment strategies. The first is probably the one I would say is the type of thing we use the most for kind of a medium-sized company, or a company that is fully on a particular CRM system. So this is really a single activation. You turn it on, and then whenever we add new members into the Case Exchange, we just automatically add them into your profile. So again, this is kind of a configure once, and then you don't have to continually add things as things go along. The second is a phased approach. So with this, we see this in a couple different areas, either a very large company that maybe you're in the middle of a CRM transition, or maybe you have multiple departments and you're not on a common CRM system. So that certainly could lead to a phased approach. Also, again, if you have rigid change management processes and you like to pilot things in a smaller group, that does allow you to pilot and get things going in a particular department or a custom group, and then expand as you deploy further. And as I indicated, you could also start with the web and move to the CRM. And you'll see, in fact, my demo is a Salesforce instance talking to the web, and you'll see how really the user experience is really the same, so it's not a big change management process if you were to transition from the web to a CRM connector at a later time. So both of these strategies are something we can help you with. Just a quick little view here on how it works. And essentially I'll go through this in the demo as well, but the initiator would open a case with another member, and again, it doesn't matter what the other member is on. So here, this instance, I'm doing a Salesforce to a web interface, and what happens there is the cases are then linked, and you'll see this concept of a global B2B ID that attaches the cases together. And in that instance, then, you're able to exchange messages back and forth between the systems. And you can see where this shows up on a Salesforce instance, and also here's a NetSuite instance. It's very similar. It's a related record section that's attached to your case, and anytime a new update is created, you'll get a new row or a new record in that child table within the case. So that's just in general how it works. A real quick view of how things look on the Salesforce side. Again, you're going to see this in the demo, but you can see here, once you install the connector, it ends up creating a related record section. It says here B2B escalation out of the box, but you can actually customize that as well as the button. A lot of people change that to TSA net escalation. And what happens there when you select the button is it opens up a form. And this form then you're able to select the partner. That automatically then will populate certain fields from the case. But again, you could change these, you could remove those. You can see really there's not a lot of required fields. So for example, if it's a sensitive customer information you want to provide, maybe the company but not the contact, whatever is appropriate for your level of collaboration with the other member, you have control of that. And then similarly, when you get to entering the description, comments, attaching files, you'll see it automatically stamps a description from the case, but again, you can modify this as you see fit. Change the comments, attach files, whatever is appropriate for the level of collaboration you want to have with the other member. So then taking a look at the web side of things, so we have integrated this into the member web, so it's not a separate system that that your engineers access. What happens when we activate the case exchange for the web, you'll see the cases tab become live within the member web. So when you select that, and again you're going to see this in the demo, you're going to get the screen that shows here to the left where you can view your active escalations, your closed escalations, and trigger a new escalation. So this is really allows your engineers to go to the same member web they've always gone to and just interact a different way. And then from the contact document, we can add a new contact method into there, and you can see what that looks like. So basically brings case exchange, and there's a button there, and when you select that button, it opens up this form. So this form is the same if you create a new escalation from the cases tab, or you do from the contact document, you're always going to be displayed with this form. And I'm sure you recognize that this really is exactly the same as that form I showed you on Salesforce. So that's where I kind of commented you could certainly start with the web, transition to CRM connector. The experience that your engineers will have will be the same. So same exact functionality as CRM. There's a little bit different workflow that's involved with the web, and that is to ensure that you are entering your internal case number. Because you'll see that's kind of how you reference the escalation case. So we didn't want to introduce yet another number that engineers need to remember. They just remember the case number that they're working on in their own internal system. So that's why we forced the entry of that internal case number. And then the other piece of the web functionality is email. So obviously we don't expect your engineers to be logged into the member web all the time waiting for an update. So whenever a new escalation comes in or an updated escalation, there is an email notification. In that email, there is a link that the user can click on that takes them directly back to this exact form where they can reply to the member. So very easy user experience. Everything the engineer needs to know is in that email, and we provide them some instructions on what to do. And we have also now the ability to modify those email templates. So for example, if you want to specify some internal instructions that really clarify exactly what the engineer should do when they receive this email, you can do that. The other thing you can do also is modify it to allow for integration into your CRM system. So we've been working with a couple of members now where, for example, we put their case ID in brackets in the subject line, which then allows it to flow into their CRM system. But again, each CRM system is a little bit different. Sometimes you have it in the subject line, sometimes there's a key in the body, but whatever is necessary, we can certainly work with you to explore proper ways of getting that email into your CRM system. So that's a view of the web functionality. So I'm going to step out here into the demo. And let me ask Dennis, you're still able to see everything here?
Yeah, everything looks good.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start first. If you're familiar with Salesforce, this probably looks somewhat familiar. This is a case within Salesforce, and this is the classic interface. I'll talk a little bit in the future about what we're doing with Lightning. But basically, this is a out-of-the-box Salesforce case. But I would say even if you've massively customized your Salesforce, you'll find that the package basically installs this related section here. So it's very similar to, example, how you would integrate a defect tracking system or some other related system in. It's a very lightweight integration that links this child table to the associated case. So you can see here I can select the B2B escalation. You have this area here where we can select the different partners, and here I'll select Globex. What happens when you do this, it will go and display the appropriate form for the vendor, and the reason that I'm going to just kind of show you a little bit difference here is you do have the ability, you can see here when I selected EMC, it added this custom field. All right, so if you have as a member requirements to receive inbound escalations, maybe it's a product line, maybe it's a serial number, maybe it's a customer number, if there's some very unique requirements for you to bring inbound cases, you can define those as custom fields. And then as the member selects that, it will force the appropriate data entry. But here I'm going to go ahead and escalate to Globex. It's our fictitious company. And I'm going to send that on its way. And you can see here that it added a new row that highlights the collaboration. If I go back into here and look at my active escalations, you can see here this new case that just came in. So I can select this and I can reply back. I could attach files, I could do things like that. Also here, you can see it's forcing me to set my internal case number. And you can see what happens is it's added the new comment back on that side. And as we refresh this here, you can see the new comment coming back to the case. So it really is as simple as that. Again, you can see here it's not dynamically moving data out of your CRM system. It really is something where your engineers are able to control the information that you send to the other end. Usually tends to be very technical information that's part of solving a case, so it's not necessary to exchange sensitive customer information if that's outside of your policy. So quite a bit of flexibility as far as that goes. So let me switch back to the slides, and you'll get a chance for some Q&A here in a bit, but I just wanted to kind of finish up here before we move into Q&A.
And we already, Paul, just so you know, we already do have a question. Bill, if you want to type that in, or I'll actually unmute you here when Paul gets ready for Q&A in just a few minutes.
Perfect, perfect. Good to hear we got a question already. So as far as what's needed to go live, and this gives you a sense of what's necessary. CRM connectors, again, usually what we ask is a conversation with your sysadmin, right? They're obviously the ones that would install and configure the connector. And again, this is a system admin, so it does not require a Salesforce developer. It is a managed package that you download out of the App Exchange and install onto your sandbox, test it out, make sure you're comfortable with it, and then you can push it into production. We do work with that system admin as well as the business contact to make sure we're in sync on the deployment strategy, and then we'll modify the contact document as well. And then as far as the web interface goes, even easier process. So you can see one less thing, obviously no IT involved here unless you want to integrate to your CRM system with email. But if you simply want to provide us an email address, so like a DL, for example, support@company.com, where your engineers are already receiving emails, that is something we can set up and get going in a very short period of time. And then same type of thing, share us the deployment strategy, we modify your contact documents, and again, that's something we can do in very short order as well. So as far as what's necessary to go live, not a complicated process at all. I want to share just a little bit here, plans for 2016, just give you a little sense of what we're working on. Number one priority is to activate more members. Obviously, that's the purpose of this call. We've got a lot of outreach going on this year. We would like to get 30 active members up and going by the end of the year. We're currently at 9, hopefully another 1 or 2 here in the next month. But obviously, we really want to get a decent percentage of our open group members on the system. And then we do have a few improvements that we're planning for Salesforce and the web. The first is we do plan to update our managed package to support Lightning. So again, that would be the type of thing where you can just simply update your managed package. And if you're familiar with the managed packages out of the App Exchange, you'll know it's a fairly straightforward process to upgrade a package. In addition to that, we do plan to release a new unmanaged package. So again, if you're familiar with Salesforce, they have the concept of a managed package out of the App Exchange. There's a little bit of customization you can do to those, but not much. An unmanaged package is really wide open. Not a whole lot you cannot customize there. So that really for members that really want a much higher level of customization and maybe have asked for things like even source code for the package, this is really the answer for that. And then the last thing, we plan to improve the integration to the contact document. So that where you saw the click to create a new case, we plan on improving that, maybe implementing some things where maybe some elements are already known that allows for more streamlined communication to the remote members. So basically some enhancements there and some ability maybe to customize some more things on the website. So that's the plans for this year. Last slide before we move into Q&A. I just want to share what next steps we feel are appropriate for folks. First is we have a brochure, and you'll find this on the website. You can find it again in a couple different places, either on the public site under features, you'll find Case Exchange, or if you log into the member web and you navigate down to the member help, you will find Case Exchange there as well. And there's a lot of information you're going to find there. What I usually suggest is people use the brochure to start the conversation with their internal stakeholders. And that just explains at a very high level something you can get through in 5-10 minutes of here's what this thing is and why we want to do it. And then from there you can certainly dig into more detailed stuff, including the detailed deployment guides, install guides for Salesforce, all that stuff you'll find under the Case Exchange. And then obviously if you get to the point where you say, hey, we're ready to start the activation process, or if you want to include me on any of the calls with your IT folks, I'm happy to do that. Just simply reach out to me and we'll coordinate that. Okay, so that's really it for the slides. Let's open it up to Q&A.
Yeah, so a couple things want to emphasize, and then I'd also like you to address, Paul, another question that they didn't ask, but I want to just go through it. But the emphasis on this really can be done in a very short period of time, and the next steps on that is just actually get a hold of Paul or myself, and we'll walk you through that. And for Jeff, you know what, Jeff, I never lost audio, so I know Stephanie, and we recorded this. We'll send it out. Make sure that you can go back, and I'm sure in the recording you'll be able to pick up on anything that you might have lost on the audio side. And then Joe has a question. It's a good question here, Paul, is how do you know which members are active in Case Exchange? How do you find that out?
Yes, so I can certainly share that, but what happens, and you can see here from the demo, is in the pull down, right? So where I went into this form here, and I think I can activate it again. Let me activate this. So this pull down, again, this is in our demo site, so this isn't the list, but from here you would see the list of who's in Case Exchange and who's not. And then if the member is not in Case Exchange, this partner not listed, this actually takes you directly to the member web locator, so you can pull up their contact document if they're not in there. But I can send out the list as well as part of the follow-up on who's in Case Exchange. But what we tend to share as well with members, if they're interested, is one of the first conversations we have with them is who's the main folks that you want to collaborate with. Because in a lot of cases, it's a joint conversation that we have. The member that has reached out to us and said, hey, we want to use Case Exchange, and then the other member that they said, hey, this is really the primary person we want to collaborate with this tool. So sometimes it's a joint project.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what Joe, I think he's wanting to know prior to implementation, right? Who the people are on board, and it really is. I think that's a good point, Paul, and that is what we try to do is if we have somebody else that you want to do this with, whether even if it's through a custom group, which was the other point that I wanted to make. You don't have to necessarily implement this for everybody in the open group. You can do that, but if you don't want to do it, you can go ahead and address it with a custom group and just do implementation with that particular company. Why don't you also, Paul, just quickly kind of address when you do get somebody that wants to implement this, can you sort of walk through in a little bit more detail about what are the typical next steps that they go through internally to implement this?
Yep. So and I think it differs a little bit between the web and the CRM system. Okay, so I think with the CRM system, I'll call it kind of the process change is extremely straightforward because it tends to be, hey, it's all within our CRM system, and for the most part we find with members they tend to have a good change management process with changes that they're making in Salesforce, right? So you would basically work with us to configure this. and then push out the training, the change management communication to your engineers, right? Making sure they're aware that, hey, now this new section exists on our case form, here's what it's for, and here's how you use it. One thing I probably didn't mention is you can control that as well. Obviously within Salesforce you have user roles and profiles. You can define which users have access to this and which users don't, so you have control over that also. And it's a very similar thing, I guess, on the web side. What we do have on the website is we do have already created some training material, and it really is, I think it's only 4 slides, so we're not talking a very deep level of training on how to use it. You can see here it's very straightforward, but we go through, here's what the process is, here's what you should do, here's what these fields mean, so a little bit more detail for the engineers on how to use the web interface.
Okay, and then and for Jeff's benefit is a question. I think the answer to that, he's with IBM, Paul, and we actually have had some discussions in that particular area about working with one particular group through the member web interface and not through Salesforce or any of the other CRM connectors. So
exactly, yeah, and I can certainly fill you in offline on that pilot that we're doing. So it is, yeah, it's a web interface, and we're planning to do some proof of concept integration with your PMR in that internal system in use there.
Yep. Okay, very good.